I don't know what I'm searching for, but it's you. Be gentle to me. Drink the body worms. Jerk the tender rancid. Read whatever you want. I know it's rotting, but we've got a good rapport. It's actually nice. My phone won't help me here.
I'm Alex Romania. I'm a artist, performance maker, video artist, whatever, multidisciplinary person.
I think that we can go about this in one of two ways. We can start talking about the performance community, or we can start with the performance that you presented at Grace.
Sure, yeah, let's start there. Did you have
Okay.
any questions in particular, or you wanted me to just give a little context?
Yes.
I think my title was Revenge of the Meat Sludge. No, yeah, it was Revenge of the Meat Sludge Loves You 3000 to Back from Hell, starring Mold Buddy. I really like to just cram in the most ridiculous.
I'm
Then
gonna
I
have to
saw it.
ask you to write that down.
Yeah, yeah. But then I saw it in the pamphlet and I was like, oh my God, she actually put that there. That's amazing. Um, but so the first thing that kind of happened in that piece was this ridiculous jumbled poem that I read in this like psychedelic hot dog priestess costume thing that I made. That costume actually took me a really long time to make. It took me like a month and a half. But I had, so it's kind of coming from a series of works that I've been making over the years. Like I had this big piece with a large group of people and live music, and my 77-year-old father was in it, and that was called Klutz. And then actually right before this thing that I did at Grace Space, I had just shown like the second work in that trilogy called Junkhead. And both those pieces kind of have these massive nonsense poems inside of them, that I sort of wrote over years, just like writing little subject lines and emails and sending myself those, and kind of like amassing that for a while, and then printing those out and cutting them up and arranging these like little strips of paper. So it's this deep kind of like associative cut up kind of process, where these lines of writing come from. And actually recently during the apocalypse, it's been really nice because I've like extended that process by just like sitting with myself at a typewriter, and instead of writing like very, very small bits of text, writing, like deciding that I'm gonna write a whole page and just like hold myself to that. But anyways, yeah, so that text that I read at the beginning of the piece was an extension of this kind of I don't know, just this like sub-brain nonsense space. And those works are a lot, and that work that I presented is a lot about kind of like weeding through nonsense, and also coming from this kind of experience. I had something similar to Lyme disease for a couple of years, which I guess I still have. Doesn't ever really go away, but it's like fine now, called Bartonella. And that was a really trippy headspace, because it affects you in all of these different ways through inflammation and chronic fatigue, and all of these kind of toxins get released through treatment that sort of do affect you in psychological ways. So that, not like, I remember Amy came up to me after that and was just like, I liked your poem, I don't know what it was though. I was like that's okay, that's all right. I'm not sure if I think it's so I think those things that I've been doing are kind of meant to elicit like an associative relationship to it. I've been really interested in exploring like substance, and like in Klutz, this powdered sugar thing. Like I'm really interested in the like the thing non-thing of the powdered sugar, like the substance non-substance-ness of it, and also like the historical loadedness of sugar itself in relationship to like whiteness and the white substance, and kind of the performance that's sort of happening in relationship to that is this body that's sort of like deconstructing and constructing itself kind of at the same time. So there's this, I don't know, there's definitely like a physicalizing of that, of, I don't know, of those concepts in that relationship. And then in the cheese sort of thing, like powdered cheese is such a, I mean, the orangeness of it, obviously right now I was like really interested in that, but you know, in our like political climate, but also I think like powdered cheese itself, I mean, correct, somebody who's listening can, you know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think powdered cheese was like invented or either like really used, like these non-dairy products in a military industrial complex context.
Yeah.
Like I think powdered cheese itself is like really made to survive the apocalypse, and it was like used like powdered mac and cheese during like World War II, like, and the fact that we consume it right now and sort of like, you know, just like a cheap grocery store kind of way, like just comes from that invention, as like a lot of sort of daily things do. So there's definitely that, that like I'm interested in being in relationship to that. And again, this kind of like body underneath that is, you know, almost like crushed by it, and also like working through that as well. Yeah.
It seemed like you were engaging in, maybe the viewers or other performers were you know, responsible for putting this powder cheese on you.
Yeah, that was a really exciting thing to be able to do at Grace, just because I feel like more often than not, like the audience there is just so willing to engage. And, you know, inside of the other works, they were presented more so in like theatrical context. So it was just a different thing to invite people in, but it was really nice to be able to just sort of like lay down the instruments and let people come in and sift and make that a participatory action. So yeah, that was just all audience that were like given those sifters and the big bag of cheese, and they were up on ladders sort of following me around sifting. Just
They seem
yeah.
very eager to be a part of this amassing of the cheese powder. How did you get so much cheese powder?
Oh my God. I still have like 20 pounds of cheese, because they sent me so I had to buy it in 25-pound pack, and they lost it, or it got returned to them or something. So they sent me another one, and then like after the Grace performance, like the first one finally arrived and they just gifted it to me, I guess. It was so funny though, because like after the performance, like people were literally coming up, and it was just this kind of like Muppet creature, and they were like, oh, this tastes really good, like, and a number, like, people were scooping it off their, I think actually, like, there was an event at the Ear like the next week, and Hoke just like brought whatever he like saved and made a ton of mac and cheese for everybody there. And then I brought up the rest of it to Rosekill, and he was like making mac and cheese also.
Wow.
And I really don't know. I'm pretty sure he like told everybody like, this is performance cheese. So I think people knew they were like eating mac and cheese from my body, but
incredible. That is a continuation of the performance that I couldn't even imagine. The second action kind of concludes. When do you like make the decision as a performer to like call the work as the end? You know, is there a moment that you remember of feeling like you had experienced enough, whether it's physically and the physical endurance component, or, you know, I can imagine that there would be a lot of trouble breathing with with the powder all over you? Do you remember?
That's a good question. How do you know when you're done? um yeah, I don't know. I don't remember in that one.
Mm,
I think I mean I have like a special relationship to kind of endurance and discomfort. Like I'm always thinking about that stuff in my work. And a lot of the kind of physical task, like, and the presence with, I feel like, myself and when I work with other people, is about like checking in with that and watching that. And also it's like it's so funny to talk about this in this like digital era, but like, yeah, in relationship to the audience, like, because you are in relationship to them, and often I feel like the things that I sometimes set out to do performance wise are uncomfortable and are they're in a space of physical discomfort, and they're also in a space of sort of like performative discomfort. And it's not like, it's not necessarily about like trying to make people uncomfortable, but it's dealing with this kind of uncomfortable content a lot of the times. And so, anyways, I think something really special does happen when one sort of like checks in with that moment of like, this has been going on a long time, and there's something uncomfortable about that, and sort of continuing, like making the choice to continue to be with that.
mhm.
So I don't know, this is a really like roundabout elusive answer, but I feel like a lot of the time, like finding the end is actually about sort of like listening for myself, like listening and being with something longer than maybe feels necessary or feels totally comfortable, because I think something else does happen.
Mhm.
So yeah. Maybe that's a
Absolutely.
satisfying answer, but not a direct one.
I thinking about endurance kind of makes me think of other performance spaces. When I think of duration, I think of Glasshouse and the L'Italianiel's long durational events. I myself performed in a 24-hour event there. Um, can you talk a little bit about, like your interaction and your experiences, not only at Grace, but at some of the other performance art spaces in Brooklyn?
Yeah, it's funny because this series of like pieces that I've been talking about very much started at Grace, maybe in like an indirect way. Like the first performance I ever did, in like the first public thing I ever did in this research, was at Grace. I think Esther and Panoply presented it part of, I think it was part of a performancy forum series that
Hmm.
they were doing.
Yeah.
It was like a long evening. I can't remember anybody else who. Oh, there's Ben. What's that guy Ben who does that smiling thing on YouTube, and Ben it's like Benjamin or something,
Okay.
and Id M Theftable. I like was a lovely performance that night. Yeah, I have like a kind of long relationship with Glasshouse. Like they also, like when I was a little baby, like finding out what performance art was in the city, like they were sort of the first place. No, I think I stumbled upon Panoply first, but then had this really fruitful relationship with Lital and all throughout the years. Like thankfully like got to do something in their rear window thing with my father actually before that
Mm.
passed, that they moved upstate. But it's interesting to think about endurance and the endurance of art spaces right now. Like I think about the space that I run is called The Woods, and that has gone through like a lot of different phases. Like I think at first it was a cooperative space, and then it sort of cracked open and became more public. And then when myself and Mayra Duarte took it over, like got past the torch, it was really like, it was really not doing well. It was sort of like about to fall off the face of the earth, and
Oh.
um, we worked hard to make it more sustainable, which thankfully it is, and thank God we sort of like have never paid ourselves and put everything into savings, because it's a rough moment. But but I don't know, there's a really loaded question of kind of right now, like how do we endure, like, as a community, and what does enduring this look like, and do we give up spaces right now and find our way back to them when we can be in public? I don't know. There, it's hard in our community, because like community, I feel like, is so integral, and just from like diving into this question of like, how do we know we're done sometimes,
Mhm.
a little bit, like, and giving you that answer of like, well, it's so much in relationship to being present for me. Like, there's so much about performance art that is that, and at first, when, because I also do the broadcast stuff with Grace, like at first when we started transitioning into that digital realm, like it felt, because everything was so chaotic and so like in flux, and just like like unknown and scary, it felt really, really good to be able to just come in this Zoom meeting, to like see other people that have been a part of my life, and an important part of my life, and see other people making performance. And then slowly over that time, it didn't become less good in those ways and less gratifying, but the loss of the event was really, I've come to learn that it's been really felt, and I don't sort of know how to recover that in digital world, you know. But I don't think we should stop trying. I don't think we should stop thinking about it. I don't think we should just sort of like, give up on performance art and art in general. I think we have to do, I think it's a time to invest in like process and practice right now, and presence in a different way. There's like a local global thing going on, where I think like we have to sort of meet our local needs, and really be present with those. And for us at like the Woods, I think that's meant both out of necessity and also, just from listening, that like our space, opening our doors in some way to people in a safe way, like, is really important, because I think people are hungry for practice, for space like that's other than their house, their home, their apartment, whatever, especially in the city. It's like, for
I'm
me,
one of
just to
those
be able, yeah, it's like, if you're, if you're like a studio based artist, like, a lot of what happens at our space has been this kind of like crossover between performance art and experimental dance. And that's really like, what our space is for. Like, we're unique in a kind of like dance sense, where we're a do whatever space, as long as you don't burn it down, kind of like clean it up mostly, but you're fine.
Yeah.
But I think it's been like a little home for that niche of experimental dance performance people, for that reason, because it's hard to find spaces like that as like a dance maker. And it's, I don't know, and yeah, just having somewhere to gather is important. I don't know what that looks like going forward, but I think we have to be creative about it.
How does the structure of the Woods work?
Okay, let me rewind a little bit. So Maida and I kind of think about it as like a national park, something like that, where like it's there for people, like, and I like that about the name, like the Woods. It's like a state park or a national park, like it's there for you to use, and there's like a carry in, carry out kind of like policy about it, but it's not really like, in a lot of ways, we're not sort of trying to brand it with our like vision in a heavy way. We're sort of trying to maintain the ability for people to access it.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, it's really like a share. It's like a timeshare studio space.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of we pre-apocalypse, we had a sort of like self-booking system, and now it's actually nice the way that it's working right now, because we get to have individual conversations with each person that's going there. Like, we're doing phone calls, and there's sort of special COVID measures, and it's good in the sense that it's created like an accountability across everybody through these conversations about like caretaking for the space and caretaking for each other. Mm-hmm. in that, you know, we have to be sensitive to safety right now. So it's like cleaning and taking care of the space is taking care of the next people that will be in there. And that mentality has felt really good in our little community.
So, I mean, it's really exciting. I was so relieved and delighted to see when I was looking at the website that that you could actually still use the space, that it wasn't completely closed. Was there a period of time where you did have to close?
Yeah, we did. We were completely closed like during the majority of the intense lockdown, and it was sort of out of, you know, we had a really unique, I don't know, we're grateful for our situation when it was in the extreme lockdown. Like we had some forgiveness from the landlord, which otherwise we wouldn't be able to be afloat. So it's like this sort of unique gift where I feel like we can now like make a push and see what this is like at this time, you know. And I think we're really, you know, fingers crossed, we're really hoping that we can weather if there is like another lockdown. I can't imagine that we probably will get that same forgiveness again, just because, you know, and we're really grateful to the landlord for that before, but I can't imagine that like the same thing would happen again. You know, yeah. It's rough for everybody, and not that I need to get into like opinions about landlord stuff, but
so I think this is one of those great opportunities for me to ask you if there's anything that we haven't spoken about that you would like to share, whether it's about your engagement with the performance community and being a part of the organizational side and an artist, or about your work.
Thanks, Quinn. I think I mean, obviously this is part of the Grace Space, Give2Grace fundraiser thing, but I do just want to say that like Grace Space holds a very special place in my heart, and I really can't think of another space that would have ever allowed me to cover their space in 25 pounds of powdered cheese. And you know, like I remember once I was like talking to Lital about my work and like something I wanted to do at Glasshouse, and she was like, no, do you do that at Grace? Like, get in touch with Jill and Hulk, like I'll put you in touch with them, like you like that kind of stuff, you go there, don't worry, it's like you're like a rock star for a night. I don't know, something with like hot dogs or something, but it's really necessary and truly special and unique that like that they're open. I can't think of a situation ever where sort of Jill or Hoke have been like, no, you know, they might like sort of look at you with like a weird look and sort of think about it and really weigh whether or not that's what the hell that's gonna be like for real. But like they've been so generous with their physical space and working out what can happen, and it's, we just don't have enough of that willingness. I think it's really necessary. Like they really put the work first. And you know, obviously we don't want to like burn down Grace or anything, but like with our performances, but it's it's really important to be able to have those conversations, first of all, and to like, you know, to be able to do that kind of stuff is just really special and unique.